what's up, everyone? It's Jenny Dildine, the LDS Mission Coach, and you are listening to the LDS Mission Podcast, episode number 59, Service Missions. I'm Jenny, the LDS Mission Coach, and whether you are preparing to serve a mission, currently serving, a returned missionary, or a missionary mama like me, I created this podcast just for you. Are you searching for epic confidence? Ready to love yourself and to learn the how of doing hard things? Then let's go. I will help you step powerfully into your potential and never question your purpose again. It's time to embrace yourself, embrace your mission, embrace your life, and embrace what's next. Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Our family has had the most amazing week. It was super amazing to watch my son and now daughter-in-law get married last week. It was just such a beautiful day. And the way weddings seem to go, if you can get past the stress and all of the things that kind of come along with it, is it's just a beautiful time of celebrating family, of celebrating love, of celebrating the opportunity that they now have to go create an amazing life together. I love thinking about life that way, that we get to create whatever we want. And my son and my daughter-in-law now get to start creating a beautiful life together, and they get to make it whatever they want. It's super fun. It's full of excitement and hope for the future. So many congratulations to them. I also had the opportunity to speak at an event last week, Jody Moore, her VIP event. I think many of you were there. Shout out to all of you that talked to me afterwards. I just loved being able to share some parenting ideas with you guys and loved sharing with and presenting with my friend Laura Callister, who is also a coach in that program. I learned a lot about myself through that process, but I also learned that I can feel all my feelings and still show up super powerfully for myself. So that is something that I hope that all of you keep taking away from this podcast and learning from this podcast is we're all going to have like negative emotion. It just will come along for the ride. So especially when we're about to do something big. So we can just learn how to manage our minds, learn to manage our emotions, and then show up and kick booty. Am I allowed to say that? Anyway. The whole day of the wedding, my brain kept trying to run off to the future and be like, we should be really worried about that presentation that you're giving tomorrow. Anyway, I just was like, no brain, let's come back to this present moment. Let's love the moment that we have right now. And so by the end of the night, though, after we'd wrapped up and cleaned up the reception and all of that, it was pretty late. I started running through my presentation in the house. Everyone else had long since gone to sleep. I think it was 1 a.m. that I was kind of running through my presentation again. And I knew that I was going to feel nervous. And I knew that it was going to be, my brain was going to freak out a little bit. But I just showed up anyway. And you can show up too. Negative emotion doesn't have to stop you. All right. On to what I wanted to talk about today. I have the most amazing guest on my podcast. Her name is Sydni Bringhurst. She's actually a currently serving service missionary. I absolutely loved this conversation that I had with Sydni. She is so eloquent. She is so well-spoken. And she taught me some things about the service mission that I had never before considered. And so I am so excited to share this conversation with you. I hope you get as much out of it as I did. And without further ado, here is my conversation with Sydni Bringhurst. Hey, Sydni, I want to introduce everybody who's listening today to my friend Sydni Bringhurst. And I'm so grateful that she has come on the podcast today to be able to talk about service missions. How are you doing, Sydni?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So tell us a little bit, where are you calling from, first of all? Where are you serving your service mission?
So I am serving in the Oregon Portland Service Mission here in Portland. I live just a little bit outside of Portland with my grandparents.
Okay, nice, nice. I'm from Seattle area, so I know Portland pretty well, actually. We love going out to the Oregon coast sometimes for vacation. That's so fun. So, are you from Portland yourself and now you're just kind of living with your grandparents for the service mission, or are you from somewhere else and you're living with your grandparents?
I am actually originally from Reno, Nevada. That's
Okay.
where I sort of did my high school experience, and that's where my immediate family lives right now.
Okay.
And so, as part of my service mission assignment or call, I was assigned here.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I love that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And this is all going to be super educational for me. It's something I wanted to learn more about is about the service mission. I know we have more and more of our friends who are serving service missions. So I would love to just hear about your story, about how you came to become a service missionary, all of that good stuff. What's that process like?
Great question. It's a very exciting process and a lot of ways parallels the teaching mission process. So, any missionary fills out the same mission paperwork, that same mission portal.
Mhm.
So, I started that process in January of 2019, I believe. I knew I wanted to serve a mission. That was something that I'd wanted to do for a really long time growing up. I just felt like that's where I needed to be and something I wanted to do. As I grew up, though, there started to be some concerns that I had as I thought about the circumstances of a teaching mission. I wondered how I would do in that environment. Mental health is a big part of my journey in this life,
Mhm.
and I've come super far learning how my mind works and how to navigate different challenges that come up. And I recognize that some of the tools and sensitivities I have need things to look a little bit different. And so, as I'm bearing that in mind and thinking about the mission process, I met with my leaders in Utah at the time I was going to BYU in Provo. And I met with my bishop and I just talked to him about some of my concerns. I said, this is something I want to do. This is how I'm feeling. These are some of the things that I'm experiencing. What do I do? And my bishop was incredible. He rooted me on the whole way. And he was really open about both opportunities, both a teaching mission and a service mission. And he fully believed, he said, if you feel like a teaching mission could be a good fit, let's run for it. And if you feel like a service mission could be a good fit, let's run for that too. So the first step that he had me take was to do a pre-mission evaluation with family services, LDS Family
Yeah.
Services.
Mhm.
So I went and did that. And it's basically, they just ask you a series of questions that kind of walk you through some of the realities of a teaching mission, the different circumstances that come up, and
Mhm.
about some kind of how you live your life now and where those things match up, where there might be some challenges. And then they issue a recommendation, either teaching or service, typically, is what comes out of that.
And
And
do
so
they share that with you right then in that evaluation, or do they kind of just write down what they think and then send it to where it needs to be sent?
good question. Yeah, it's a really kind of a long interview, and so they sat on it for I think about a week. She's the my interviewer. She's like, I'm going to pray about it and think about it and look at all the things that we talked about, and then she sent her final recommendation to my bishop at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and then he reached out to me when he received that report. The report, though, is very simple. It's just, this is what we recommend. She doesn't detail all of the reasons why or anything like that.
Okay. So your bishop reached out to you once they had come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
So then from there, I actually started having hip issues. Um, my hip just started breaking down, so I started to struggle to walk, and so I put the mission process on pause
Mm-hmm.
as I figured that out, and it would turn out that I would need hip surgery.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so then all of this kind of happened, and then COVID hit. So
Good old COVID.
yeah. Oh, the best. Yeah.
Especially
So
for missionaries.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I went home and shifted all of I still worked on my mission paperwork with my bishop in Utah for a little while until it was seeming like I would, the world was still going to be on pause for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in Reno and I got hip surgery a couple of months later in August when surgeries opened back up. And that added another layer of complexity to that mission process
Yeah.
because now you have that physical examination, and there are now a slew of things on the physical examination that I would struggle with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I still met with the doctor there, and he was a member of the church, and I kind of explained my situation, and we did a couple of tests, and he gave his best recommendation for the set of circumstances that I was in. And it took about 4 months before I was kind of functional again, walking again. And then probably about 6 was I really living my life. So I turned in my papers while I was still in that recovery process because I figured, they can put me out as far as they need to, as far as when I would start my mission.
You bet. Mm-hmm.
But there's some steps in between there. So we had that pre-mission evaluation, and we have those physical examinations, and then you have those interviews with your bishop and your stake president.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went ahead and did those in Reno, shifted my papers over, and started meeting with that bishop and stake president. In the mission paper process, there is no box to check of, I think I would be a good candidate for a service mission, or I would prefer not to do a teaching mission. There's not a section about that.
Okay.
There is, however, one question in there that just says, is there anything else that you would like the brethren to know, the mission department to know, as they pray on this decision?
Mm-hmm.
And so in there, that's where I included some of my thoughts and feelings, which ultimately were that I wanted to go wherever the Lord wanted me to go. And if that meant a teaching mission, I'd make it happen and I would make it work. And if that meant a service mission, I would make it happen and I would make that work. That being said, I had some concerns about staying at home. Typically, service missionaries live at home with their immediate family. And I have a super supportive, great family. It would have been wonderful. And Reno has a lot of complicated history for me. And so I worried about how that might impact my service. And I have a big family, lots of kids. And when I moved out for college, they moved me out. So I didn't really have, a space. And so I just felt like there would be some complexities with that. So I did some research, and my bishop in Utah said, the main thing that they want you to have is family support. They want you to have a support system while you're serving as a service missionary. So maybe put some feelers out there and see if you have some extended family that would be willing to join you in this process, have you live there and serve there. So I reached out to my grandparents here in Oregon, and they were super open to it, which I'm so grateful for. And I also reached out to the service mission leaders here in Oregon and started talking with them. Had the interviews with my bishop and stake president, which they do have a portion in their recommendation that they send to recommend a missionary for a service mission or a teaching mission. I believe my bishop recommended me for a teaching mission and my stake president recommended me for a service mission.
Mm-hmm.
That's mostly me speculating based on the conversations that we had.
Okay.
So I think there was both thrown out there. And then it took forever to get my call. It took about 4 or 5 months before I finally got my call letter, which is not standard. Typically, it is a faster turnaround even for a service mission call. And there are a couple of things that happened that helped me understand maybe why that happened the way that it did. And I think it was the way that it needed to. But eventually I got my call, and it was set to have me start just a month later. So a really short turnaround time as far as starting my mission, which I've seen is pretty common for service missionaries.
Okay.
And the call letter reads that I would serve in my local community. So from there, I submitted that acceptance letter that they have you
Okay.
send in.
Uh-huh.
And then my parents, my grandparents, service mission leaders, and ecclesiastical leaders all submitted a statement back to church headquarters recommending that I receive a transfer of sorts to Portland.
Okay.
And then that was approved. And so then that's how I ended up in Portland.
That's really great to know, because one of the things that I have heard from some service missionaries that I have talked to is that can be one of the big challenges is living at home, that can be really a hard thing. So that's so cool to know that process. And I don't think we said this, you guys, all of you listening, but Sydney, Sister Bringhurst, is on her mission right now. Like she is serving a service mission right now. So it's so fun that we get to talk to her and pick her brain while she's actually in the middle of this experience. So thank you for sharing that process. I really loved the insights on kind of what those questions are and what it might look like and the process that you went through. I really appreciate that. So one of the questions that I've had, and I think that some of these stigmas might be changing as more and more people are serving service missions, but what do you think that some of those stigmas or ideas about a service mission that are kind of out there that you've heard?
One of the big ones that I feel is present is this idea that there's something wrong with you. If you're on a service mission, there must be something wrong. What are you in for? Type thing. Why are you here? Why are you not on a teaching mission? There must be something wrong. Other ones that I can think of are that service missions are not real missions, that they're just a way to pass the time, I guess. They're not real. I hear that one a lot. Oh, you're not a real missionary. You're not a regular missionary.
People actually say that to you?
Yeah,
Wow.
unfortunately.
Okay.
And I'm not alone in that. And other things I could think of, well, there is I don't know if it's a stigma so much as a misconception that service missions are not full-time. Service missions are absolutely full-time, and we receive a call from the prophet just like a teaching missionary. So those are some of the immediate ones that come to mind for me.
How would you address each one of those like misconceptions? What would you say to each of those?
Sort of my mantra as I've gone throughout my mission is that this mission is necessary, valid, and important. And I really believe that. And one of the things that I look to are the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this calling to be a representative of Jesus Christ. Because that's the same, teaching and service. We are representatives of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is the way that we do that, the way that we serve. The assignment is different. The call is the very same. And Elder Bednar, I believe, gave a really great talk about that. The difference between the call and the assignment.
Right. I remember that talk.
Yeah, I think it's powerful. And I feel that it doesn't just apply to different areas that you're assigned to, but this assignment, this core assignment of teaching versus service. And when I look in the scriptures, more and more I see that so many of Christ's teaching moments, opportunities are preceded by an act of service, a miracle, some way that he served. And so it starts to make a lot of sense to me that we need both teaching missions, full-time teaching and sharing, and also service missions, full-time serving with their hands, because we need that many people doing full-time both things, because Christ was perfect at it, perfect at doing both things. So we need armies, so to speak, I guess, doing both. So I guess that's the core of it for me, that this is real. It's a call from the prophet, and it's important work.
That's amazing. What were the 3 words you used? That it's valid? What were those 3 words?
Necessary, valid, and important.
It's a beautiful way to think about it. And you guys, Sydney, Sister Bringhurst, is the niece of one of my really good friends who's also a life coach, by the way, my friend Amber Hayter. Shout out to her on the podcast, of course. And I'm sure some of what you've heard Amber maybe talk about is the role that our thoughts about our circumstance play in the way that we perceive our circumstance and the role that it plays in the experience that we're having. So when we have this thought that this mission is necessary, valid, and important, what kind of feeling does that create for you? What kind of emotion does that evoke inside of you?
It gives me a lot of confidence and a sense of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and helps me show up the way that I want to,
Mm-hmm.
even when others may not see it the same way. I love the phrase or the concept of letting people be wrong about you.
Right.
So that first stigma of this, well, what are you in for? There's something wrong with you. People can think that, and I know that I'm okay. I'm doing just fine. And um, I guess I didn't address that one very much when I talked about breaking down those stigmas. It's a delicate one because the first presidency has stated that first and foremost missionaries are considered for a proselyting mission. And so then how do you reconcile that? How do you feel? How does that work? That's still complicated for me. How can I both be confident that this is where I need to be and that there's nothing wrong with me, and recognizing that there's this sort of, oh, well, we considered you for this and we felt like this was a better fit. And I guess that's the terminology I've started using. This was a better fit for me. This is a place where I could thrive and not just survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good because even I've seen, some missionaries that are serving like a proselyting mission, and then they decide to go to a service mission. And some of them who I have actually worked with as clients, there's kind of a lot of like disappointment there, a lot of shame there. And so I do think it's fascinating what you're bringing up is this kind of duality that it's like, well, here's this. Does that mean this is like second place or second choice or something like that? Was that a mindset that you had? Did you go through any sort of like a disappointment process? Yeah, what was that process like to come to where you are now?
That's a wonderful question. I definitely think that there's a natural mourning process.
Mm.
I grew up singing, I hope they call me on a
Yeah.
mission and called to serve. And a mission looked one way in my brain
Yeah.
for a long time. And so I think that there's a natural mourning process that comes with seeing your mission a different way, that it looks different than you once thought it would. I feel really blessed with the way that my process went. I feel like I had a lot of time to wrap my head around it
Mm.
because like I said, I started that process probably late fall of 2018 into January of 2019. And then I didn't start my mission until April of 2021. So I had a long time to think about it and wrap my head around that and come to love this assignment and love this call. And I've seen that in my peers as well, fellow service missionaries of,
Yeah.
man, I envisioned these knocking on doors and sitting in members' homes and sharing messages and eating dinner with members and all these things and having living companions and the bonds that come with that. So I think that that's natural. And I've also worked with missionaries that I've gone through that transfer process of being out proselyting and coming home service, and same thing, they envisioned the mission looking one way and now it looks different. So that's definitely been a process. And I totally, when I first started, was so curious about everybody's why are you here, why are you here, once becoming so I was so fixated on that.
Mm.
And that's really gone by the way for me. And I believe that Heavenly Father knows exactly where we need to be. And this is what we needed to be doing.
It's a powerful thought. I love that so much. it's really a testament to you and your faith and your strength and your trust in God's plan, how you've been able to kind of wrap your brain around it and really take ownership of the way that you want to think about your experience. It's really, that's amazing. I'm really impressed by you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The other thing that I think you point out so beautifully is that, of course, it makes sense that when something goes differently than we expect, there's going to be some emotion associated with that. And I think it's important for all of our listeners to really understand the difference between being like, oh, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, and feeling that kind of disappointment, versus that didn't go the way I thought it should go, and so I'm disappointed in me. That's a big distinction that I think we want to be able to point out. And I think it's perfectly normal to be like, oh yeah, this isn't what I expected from my mission. This isn't what I pictured all those years. And so maybe I'm going to be a little sad, or maybe I'm going to have a little mourning period like you suggested. But as long as we can keep that sort of perspective that it's different, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean I'm bad, or that I'm wrong, or that something is wrong with me. I think that's really, really key and really, really important. And I think your one thought, like, God knows what he's doing, he knows where I'm supposed to be, really just encapsulates all of that so well.
Absolutely. Yes. What are you going to make it mean? And
Mm.
yeah, it's so important.
Good. Okay, so what are some of the things that you find challenging about a service mission? I mean, we know that there's challenges wherever we are in life, but what kind of heads up would you want to give us about some of the things that are tough?
Totally. I felt like you hit on one of them earlier, this living at home.
Mm,
Um, I live away from home, but I'm still in a home setting. I'm still with family, and living at home without a living companion. We have, at least every service mission is a little bit different. In this mission, we do have companions. You don't live with them because you're each living with your family. And so you're on your own a lot.
mm,
And that's tough. It's tough
mm,
for a number of reasons. One of the main ones, I think, being to stay motivated. How do you keep yourself accountable to do your personal study, to do companionship study, to go to your assignments on time, to get up and get moving? How do you do that without somebody there also doing all of the same things? That can be really tough.
mm-hmm.
And I think in that same vein, one of the things that I've been out on my mission about 15 months now, and I feel like I'm still working on, is how to really be present in the mind of a missionary. I am a missionary. I'm not working a part-time job. I'm not doing something on the side. I am a missionary. And what does that look like? And what does that feel like? And how do I want to carry myself while I'm at home as well with my grandparents? We have a handbook and we have different rules and guidelines. And there is a lot more openness, though, and a lot more that I have to hold myself accountable to really encourage and embrace that spirit of being a missionary.
That's good. I appreciate that so much. It actually probably takes more self-motivation, more grit and commitment for you to get out of bed in the morning than it would if you, I remember my son telling me that one of his companions said, because he was having a hard time getting out of bed, and he told my son, he's like, if I'm not out of bed by 6:30, I want you to go get a bucket of water, a pitcher of water with ice in it, and dump it on me. And so I remember my son Nathan, he was like, okay, are you sure? Are you sure? Wake up, elder, wake up, elder. I don't think he ever had to dump it on him, but definitely that would propel you to get out of bed, where you're just kind of doing it on your own.
Yeah, I think that's sort of another stigma, is that service missions are easy. Oh, they're a walk in the park. You're at home. You're at home. It's got to be fine. Well,
Mm.
it comes with a whole other set of challenges. One of those main ones being to be motivated like that.
Yeah. And I can see how the mindset thing would be a bit of a challenge too, just trying to stay in the right headspace. I don't want to call it the right headspace, but when you're not just like engulfed in it, when it's not, when you don't have that companion, I can see how it would be more challenging, not only to try to stay in the headspace you want to be in, like what would a missionary think? What would a missionary feel? What would a missionary do? But you might even have a tendency, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, to kind of judge yourself even more harshly if you're not in that headspace.
Oh, absolutely. I was reflecting on that just recently, that there's sort of that fine line between wanting to encourage myself and encourage this growth, and then just tearing myself apart, and sort of this constant underlying doubt of like, well, am I doing enough? Am I really doing enough? And I think lots of missionaries teaching and service both feel that way.
Yes.
I've noticed that more and more as I'm trying to like live in that headspace that I would like to. Sometimes I think I edge over to the other side of never quite being satisfied and always doubting, well, am I really, oh, well, did I really do that? Well, oh, am I really there? And that's tough.
Yeah. And what I would say is that our lower brain, right? I don't know if Amber's talked to you about this, but just this idea that that's kind of always going to be there. It's a part of like our existence. It runs 24/7. Just that always questioning, is it enough? Could I do more? Could I be more? And you're exactly right. I hear the same story from missionaries who are out doing a proselyting mission. So being able to hold space for that question and keep moving, right? That's the power.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the very best things about a service mission? Now that we've talked about some challenges, what are some things that are so amazing about it?
The people that you get to meet. Ah,
Mm.
both the missionaries that I've met are some of the most incredible people I've ever met. There's a special spirit, I think, that comes with being a service missionary because you're having to sort of battle these stigmas at the same time.
Mm.
This tenacity for the gospel and this belief in purpose and desire to be a missionary. And it's incredible to watch. And then also the different service assignments that I serve in, people that I've met, we really try to have each missionary's schedule be a balance of within church functions and communities, but then also out in the community with other denominations. And
Oh,
so getting to learn about other belief systems and get to know people who are so strong in their faith has been amazing.
that's awesome. So that's something that's very intentional then on a service mission, is because I've heard of like people serving in the temple and kind of doing Deseret Industries type of service. But what I hear you saying, it's very intentional that we do some stuff that's kind of church based through our faith, through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then some stuff that's more like community based or other faith based.
Yeah, it is sought to be intentional. It reminded me of the service missionary purpose, and I'd love to read it if that's
Yeah,
okay.
please.
So the service mission purpose states, our purpose is to help others come into Christ by serving them as the Savior would. We serve voluntarily in charitable organizations, church functions, and within the community. We will minister in His name to the one just as He did, expressing His loving kindness.
Mm.
Oh, it's written right in there that we're both serving within the church in places like Desert Industries, Bishop Storehouse, in the temple, but also in charitable organizations outside of the church and within the community.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for reading that. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
It's one of my favorite things, very favorite things about serving a service mission. I think it's a beautiful purpose.
Yeah, we need to just all our service missionaries keep that in their pocket and pull it out and look at it like every day. That's so awesome. So, yeah, once you got to where you're serving, tell me what that looked like. Were they like, okay, here's the things you're going to do, or here's a choice of some things you can do? Tell me about that. And then I'd love to know kind of what your day looks like each day.
Okay. So when I first started, I met with my service mission leaders. I guess I should clarify. So teaching missions have, proselyting missions have a mission president. and wife couple there, and a whole support system. And then service missionaries have separate leaders. So I don't serve with the mission presidents of the Oregon Portland teaching mission. I
Mhm.
have service mission leaders, Elder and Sister Laughlin, who function very similarly to mission presidents as far as presiding over all the missionaries, helping us build our schedules and supporting us with conferences and whatnot.
Okay.
And then the keys of each missionary, though, are with their individual stake president.
Mm.
So there's that little distinction there. So then any worthiness concerns or check-ins, things like that would be with your stake president rather than with your service mission leaders.
Okay.
So when I first started, I met with my service mission leaders, and we just kind of talked about some of the things that I enjoy, some of my strengths, and then also things that are challenging for me, things that would stretch me.
Mhm.
And then from there, once I got to Oregon, they took me on a tour of sorts of a couple of different organizations that they had existing relationships with,
Mm.
and to give me an idea of what was out there, some possibilities of places that I could serve, some different things that I could be doing. And they told me right from the get-go, we want you to have assignments that feel very comfortable and things that make you excited and feel like your strong suit, and then also things that are going to stretch you and challenge
Yeah.
you and maybe not be your favorite thing ever, and to have a balance of both of those things. So they walked me through those, and then they gave me an opportunity to kind of pick and choose of those different assignments, which ones felt good, which
Mhm.
ones felt like a good fit. And then they've always given us the opportunity to seek out other opportunities as well,
Oh, okay.
via just serve, or as we're serving, sometimes people are like, oh, you serve full time, like let me tell you about this organization that I'm also a part of.
Oh, right. Right.
And then we just have to get those opportunities approved to make sure that they're safe places for us to be serving, and that there's an understanding of what we're doing there and whatnot. But it's a really cool process, honestly. And then that service assignment schedule can change throughout your mission. It's not one that you commit to from the beginning and then never changes. You can swap out assignments as you feel are necessary or feel inspired to do so.
Okay. Great. So what are you doing right now? What are you involved with right now?
Right now, I serve a lot with the Salvation Army in Portland.
Mhm.
I help run their sack lunch program. So every Monday, we make anywhere from 500 to 1,000 lunches.
Wow.
Some of those lunches go to the Salvation Army there, and they help with that outreach. And I've had the opportunity to be part of that outreach. So we walk around downtown and hand out lunches and offer prayer or conversation with anybody who's feeling a need for that. And then the bulk of the sandwiches go to a county office downtown that then get distributed to different organizations that also go and do that outreach process of handing out lunches. And other times we've handed out waters or cooling supplies. Every once in a while we get a really hot week, and
It's
Oregon's
unusual,
not,
but
entirely used to that. So
yeah.
that or handing out ponchos on extremely wet weeks, or socks, things like that. And then I also serve in the temple, and my assignments there have changed throughout time. When I first started, I was on the landscaping crew, helping
Oh,
with the grounds of the temple, which was a blast and had a really unique spirit. And then I started serving in the laundry, the clothing rental. So I helped
yes.
with that process. And then I'm currently serving as an ordinance worker, and that's been a real blessing. And then I've served at the Bishop Storehouse in the past. And I also serve at a place called the Good Neighbor Center, which is over in Tigard, Oregon. And it is a shelter for families experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. And I help them with both their childcare and processing donations that come in, organizing their different storage spaces. And then I also serve at Durham Becker Children's Hospital in their pediatric ICU.
Wow. I just am having this overwhelming just awe of anybody who says that a mission is not a real mission or is not making a difference. That's not true at all. I don't know if you guys can feel what Sister Bringhurst is is sharing with us, but like anyone who says that 1,000 lunches don't make an impact and don't represent like what the Savior would have done is wrong. There's, I think this necessary and valid and important is just when you describe it this way and tell us the things that you're doing, that rings so true. That's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you. One of my favorite things about being a service missionary is the opportunity to share about these experiences and to share about the mission. That's one kind of informal assignment I have right now. I tour with my mission leaders around the mission area, and we talk with different wards about this opportunity, about what a service mission entails. And I'm finding that as people open their hearts and listen to the amazing opportunities that are here and the bridges that are being built. I mean, Salvation Army, once upon a time, there was not a relationship there at all. And now it's built into something really beautiful. And so as people are hearing that and opening their hearts to that, I love to see that wall come down and like, oh yes, this is real and this is important and valid. And I do feel like education is one of the biggest things that can help break down these stigmas, because like you said, I think it's hard once you hear and see the good that's being done to say that it's not worthwhile.
Yeah, 100%. So good. What advice would you have for someone who is getting ready to serve a service mission?
Oh, so many thoughts come to mind.
There's so much.
So much. I guess the first thing that's coming to mind is to not, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but to not be afraid to be wrong and to grow. An example that I came up with a couple of months ago that I've enjoyed playing with is the example of changing your major when you're in college. So, say I started out as an engineering major. And I start taking those classes because I really thought I wanted to be an engineer and I thought it would be really great. And I realized really quickly that it is not a good fit for me. I'm not feeling it. It is just not my brain, and this major is, all of the tough feelings there. And beyond just being hard, it's just, this isn't a good fit. It's not something that is going to help me become the person that I want to be. Any of those questions that come up when you're thinking, why am I in this major? This isn't the right one for me. And so then meet with an academic advisor, or even on your own, depending on where you're at in your schooling, and you switch it. You choose something else. Maybe you decide you want to go into education. I find more often than not, when you change your major in school, people are pretty supportive.
Right.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad you realized and you felt early on or later or right now that wasn't a good fit for you. And I'm glad you found the thing that feels better and can help you grow and feels true to who you are and all those things. It's often largely supported by peers and things like that. I like to view the different assignments much of the same way, teaching or service. And understanding that it might need to shift. You will have so many people ask you about your mission from the beginning. And I remember before I even started, I got my call and everybody wanted to know about a service mission. And I was like, I haven't started. I don't really know what it's looking like and what it's doing. And some of my verbiage has changed, the words that I like to use, the ways that I like to approach this to be more inclusive. And so just to not be afraid to change your mind, to be open to that. Change your mind about how you're feeling, change your mind about the circumstances, about what a service mission is. Like, it's okay. It's okay for that to evolve. And I would even go as far as to say it can be really good for that to evolve. I think that can be a really good thing. I also think having some ideas about what kind of structure that you would like, what kind of rules that you would like to have for yourself, to be brainstorming about that. How would you like to work on your personal study? How would you like that to look for yourself? What kind of rules would you like for yourself as far as media? Some missions, I think, are more specific with what they permit and what they don't. When I first started here, it was pretty open. So, how much access do you want to have to social media? How do you feel about that? What kinds of media are you going to consume? Every service missionary is different. I've enjoyed reaching out to missionaries that I've found on social media and, what's your process? What worked for you? And
Yeah.
also allowing that to change over time. It's okay for that to change and evolve. And to be confident in your purpose. Oh, rereading the missionary purpose, I think
Mhm.
can be so important. And rereading your call letter, I think can be super helpful.
Awesome. So those standards for media and that kind of thing, are those rules that then come from your stake president because he's the one that holds the keys, or would that come from your mission coordinator, service mission coordinators? Is that what their title was? Mission service coordinator?
Yeah, they can be called service mission coordinators or service mission leaders.
Okay,
So,
so were those kind of standards come down from them the same way it would a mission president, or is it all kind of up to you? There's some guidelines in your handbook, and then from there you can just decide.
there's a combination. So we do have a handbook, missionary standards for disciples of Jesus Christ, service missions. There are some there. A lot of it is pray about it and follow the Spirit. And
Mm,
then my service mission leaders, that's a 3-year calling for them. And
mm,
so over time, they've seen things that they feel are helpful. And so they will meet with us and establish new rules and standards to help further the work and help us be more focused and things like that. And then my one-on-one meetings with my stake president, we've also had times where we've just brainstormed about things, or I've talked about, okay, here's what I'm feeling and here's what I'm doing. What do you think? And then he'll say, well, let's try this. This is something that teaching missionaries do. Let's see if it works for you in this context. And so, kind of a combination.
gotcha. And are you meeting with your stake president? How often? Would it be every transfer the way that teaching missionaries do, or like every 6 weeks, or
The
just on
goal
an
is to
as needed basis?
the
How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. So the goal is to meet with your stake president every month. So about
Okay.
every transfer. And we do have every 6 weeks we rotate companionships.
Okay.
So we don't have that same transfer experience. We're not moving homes or even necessarily moving assignments, but every 6 weeks we switch companions, and then every month you're supposed to be meeting with that stake president.
Okay. Awesome. And how much contact do you have with the service mission leaders?
Oh my goodness. They're basically my parents out here.
Oh, good. Good.
They're they've become some of my best friends. So I we meet with them a lot, but we have mission conferences twice a month via Zoom, and then we have one in-person meeting as a whole mission with them as well, which sometimes includes interviews with them.
Mm,
Other times it's just a bonding meeting.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, so we see them pretty often.
I love that. I've heard in the next 6 months, I was kind of chit chatting with my stake president about this podcast and some things about service missions, because I do think that my son, actually my third son, will likely be serving a service mission. If he serves a mission at all, we'll see. But anyway, so I was kind of picking his brain, and it sounds like there are some changes kind of on the horizon in the next 6 months, that they're doing some pilot programs and things around to hopefully help with some of these challenges. So good. I love that. I have a couple last questions for you, Sister Bringhurst. How do you think a person would know if a service mission was right for them?
I think prayer is super key. Praying about it and reflecting on it. Something that I felt was really pivotal in my process was looking beyond sort of the first few things that come to mind when you think about a mission, the things I mentioned earlier about sitting in a living room and bearing your testimony. And I can sit in a living room and bear testimony. I can say that with confidence. I can do
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that would feel good and that would be wonderful. And needed to look and ask myself the hard questions about potentially walking miles upon miles a day and stairs with my hip. Okay, how's that going to look? Thinking about the emotional toll, some of the different challenges that I have in that environment. And when you get that tough companion out in the field, or when you're feeling, really homesick, or just the circumstances
Mm-hmm.
that a teaching mission provides, and asking myself those questions about, okay, what's that going to look like for me? And can that be a healthy option? Is that something that can be healthy? And so really having those honest conversations with yourself. And I think that the pre-mission evaluation can
Mm-hmm.
be a great opportunity for that. And if you're out teaching, I think that that's still a conversation that you can have with yourself. Is this healthy for me right now? Are there changes I can make out here that can help it be healthier for me? Or do the circumstances need to change?
Mm.
Does this assignment need to shift for this to be a healthy opportunity to grow in the spirit and to be a representative of Jesus Christ and all those things?
Yeah. And I love this word you're using, healthy. I want you to kind of expound upon that, because I think you kind of alluded to this earlier, but we understand that missions are hard. We understand that service missions have challenges and can be hard. It's hard just being a human, right?
Amen.
But
Amen.
what do we mean by healthy? When you say that, like, can this be a healthy experience for me to change here and have kind of hard here, or a healthy experience at home? Even if someone who decides to just come home early, or, all of that kind of thing. How do you describe that word healthy? What does that mean to you?
One of the things that I have really latched onto is this idea that Heavenly Father and our Savior Jesus Christ want us to thrive and not just survive. And there is sacrifice, and there are hard things, and that's valid and important.
Mm,
And I think there's a point where it goes beyond sacrificing, and now you're sacrificing, I guess, more your health. For myself, at least, I think about physical, emotional, and spiritual. And I want to sacrifice, and I want to give my willing heart and open mind to my Heavenly Father. And I want to be mindful and aware of what circumstances can best allow me to do that,
mhm.
so that I can continue to be an instrument in His hands. And that maintenance process of that instrument is I think up to me. It's up to me to be aware of what kind of things I need to do to be in best shape to be that instrument.
I love that. It's sort of the word that came to my mind as you were talking, is like the difference between like sacrifice, which is sometimes hard, it's sometimes challenging, but the difference between sacrifice and suffering.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
And I think that there is a lot of needless suffering that we put ourselves through, which then takes a toll on our health. Whereas sacrifice, I think of, yeah, it's hard, but it's going to continue to help us grow and move towards the person that Heavenly Father wants us to be. I'm thinking about this out loud, but that's kind of what came to mind. And I'm sure it's not a catch-all way to think about it, but that I think that is, to me, health is sacrifice. And we're gonna make some sacrifices, but maybe we cross the line when we put ourselves and punish ourselves with suffering, either spiritually, mentally, or physically.
I would agree. I think that's a great way to articulate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. It just kind of came to me, the suffering part. What do you want people to really understand about a service mission that maybe they don't understand right now?
That it's necessary, valid, and important. I go back to that always. Also, that it is a call from the prophet. I think that that's important. I also, though, want to add a thought onto that call process. The way that a service mission functions right now came around in about January of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Service missions did exist before then, and it was a different process. It
Mm.
was more of an application through your stake president and an assignment that way. And I just want to say that that mission is also necessary, valid, and important. I don't want to discount any of those experiences just because the program has changed.
Mm.
So I want to throw that out there as well. I have noticed that people have sort of met service missions at different stages in that development. And so talking with service missionaries that are around you right now is a great opportunity. Every service mission is looking so different. Like you said, there are some different pilot programs out there right now. I think this opportunity will continue to evolve. That's another distinction, that this isn't an entirely different program. It's all within the missionary program, and it's just a different assignment, a different opportunity. So those are some of those things that I like to put in there. Other thoughts would be to love and support your service missionaries, just like your teaching missionaries. Something that I don't know would maybe come to mind quickly for people. We've sort of created this very glamorized process of mission call opening your mission call.
Yeah.
And you've got that big map, and everybody's putting their pin on the map, and where are they going to go, and what language are they going to speak. And at least, for me, as I knew a service mission was a possibility, I opened my mission call from my bed in my pajamas with just a couple of my family members, just my mom, my sister, and my brothers. And it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough. I know of at least one individual who it wasn't on their radar, and they had that big process, and they opened their call, and it was a service mission, and they were serving locally, and it can be tough to process. I so appreciated the people that just embraced me and showed me so much love and support. And asking questions is great and wonderful. I would just encourage you to do it with gentleness and openness, and try and recognize if there's any judgment in some of your questions. That can be hard to do. But being open to understanding new things about service missions and what that person's process is going to look like. Understand that there are a lot of challenging emotions that can come with it, including being very excited, of course. Those are some things that come to mind for me.
So good, and such good reminders for all of us. I think let's all go have the service missionaries over for dinner. Is that allowed?
Yeah, it's totally allowed. My ward actually started doing that, and it has meant so much to me. A couple months into a mission, they said, we realized, we have this calendar for the teaching missionaries. Why don't we have a calendar for you too? And those have been some of my favorite experiences. Totally, reach out to your service missionaries. And when you have a missionary that comes home and from a teaching mission and decides to transfer into a service mission, that is the process right now, is that it's a transfer from one mission into another. You don't need to ask them why they're home. You don't need to do that. If they want to share that with you, I think that's great. But just being welcoming. Welcome home. Tell me about your next steps. Tell me what's up.
Yes.
Love, and all things lead with love, I think.
It's a great motto. And of course, what I teach here is that, that love is generated by the way you think about someone.
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's really something doable we all can do. And then, of course, that love is going to drive a certain set of actions. If we come at it from judgment, like our action line is going to look a lot different than if we come at it from love. Or like if we come at it from like suspicion or something like that.
Yeah.
But if we come at our action line of talking to someone with love, it's going to feel so different. First of all, to me, and second of all, it'll feel different to you. So good. All right. Any last thoughts, Sister Bringhurst, that you would like to share with us?
I would like to share a thought that a fellow missionary shared with me. It was in her start of mission talk. And she was originally assigned as a service missionary. And in a lot of ways, I feel like our journeys are really parallel. So it's been fun to watch her grow. She started just about 3 months ago. And she gave some different examples of the scriptures of times that challenges of different figures were sort of taken away. Tongues were loosed, burdens were lifted, things like that. She shared some examples. Could Heavenly Father have done that for me? Could he have, so in my case, could he have magically taken away all of my hip pain and it just would have been gone?
Right.
Sure. Could he have taken away some of the different thoughts and struggles that I have with my mental health?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he could have. He's capable. We've seen that in the scriptures. And that's not the miracle that he intended for me. And that was her thought. It's not the miracle he had intended for me. The miracle was this opportunity, a mission that would allow me to serve in the best ways that I know about how, in the best ways that he knows how. That's the miracle. And so, even if the miracle wasn't what we thought it was going to look like, this opportunity is a miracle. And I've been pondering on that a lot and realizing that sometimes I think we put our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ in a box of what miracle they need to extend to us,
Right.
what we think that they should do for us, what's going to be the best miracle for us, when they know what the best miracle is. They know what it is. And if we keep our hearts and minds open, we can start to see what that is. And we might be surprised to find that we're living in it.
That is a beautiful thought. And I was actually just sharing that sort of same sentiment and same thought with a client I was just working with. Is like, we think a miracle is going to be one thing, something, usually we expect it like a change or something, but instead the miracle is us. The miracle
Mm,
is the growth. The miracle is this gift that we've been given to grow and change, to become more like them. That's the miracle. It's
that's
beautiful. You
beautiful.
said it so eloquently. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sydney, and for sharing all of your wisdom. You are beautifully well spoken, super eloquent, and I appreciate all of the insights that you've shared with us today. I know it's going to help so many people. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. Listen, if you are learning a lot from this podcast and you like what you're hearing, you will absolutely love hopping on a free strategy call with me. That's where you and I meet up one-on-one and talk specifically about what is going on for you. I love teaching young adults the mental and emotional tools that they need to overcome worry and anxiety, serve the successful missions they've always dreamed of, and navigate their post-mission experience with confidence. So go to jennydildine.com and click on the Work With Me link. I would love to meet you, and I would love to get you some helpful tools and strategies to help you fully embrace whatever is next for you. And in the meantime, no matter which part of the mission experience you are involved in, just know that Jenny, the LDS mission coach, is thinking about you every single day.